Hello friends, today we're going to be talking about the second Mercury retrograde of 2026, which will occur in the sign of Cancer on June 29th, as Mercury stations to go retrograde at 26 degrees. And this Mercury will go back to 16 degrees of Cancer. It will station to go direct on July 24th. And by the time it covers all of its shadow degrees and comes back to this 26 degree mark, it will be August 6th. And at a first glance, we can interpret this Mercury like any other Mercury retrograde, which is denoting another period of delays, revisions, figuring out past misunderstandings. But honestly, this Mercury retrograde is kind of like that saying the gods have a sense of humor. We've been going through a lot with the cardinal aspects of our charts, with that Saturn in Aries squaring the sign of Cancer, Jupiter completing its cycle in the sign of Cancer. Now we got to have this Mercury go back and do a review. And this Mercury retrograde is important on a serious note because when Mercury goes retrograde, within 12 hours of it, Jupiter will change signs and go into the sign of Leo after a year, which makes the timing of this retrograde quite remarkable. It's almost as if one planet is exiting the stage, but it's handing the mic to Mercury to now go back and just keep announcing what has happened in the past. And if you think about it, this is one sign that has gone through profound amount of changes in the past year and a half. Because if you remember, it's not just Jupiter that's been here since summer of 2025. This is also the sign where Mars was retrograding in beginning of 2025. And now we have a third planet doing a retrograde in this sign. And I would say Mercury as a planet of intellect, something about our mind, our thinking process needs to understand what the hell has happened since beginning of 2025. We have to look at transits in the bigger ongoing context of their narrative, not just like there's a Mercury retrograde today, therefore we only look at that. It's very important that in the past short while, 3 planets have retrograded in the same sign. But before getting into the depth of this video and what all of this means, I just want to let you know that the next video that I'll be doing is about Jupiter in the sign of Leo, just so that we get acquainted with it. It's going to be there for a year. It's good for us to know what it's all about. And of course, all the upcoming transits for the month of July are also coming up. And if you want to catch those videos and more, please do remember to subscribe, press that notification bell so YouTube notifies you when those videos are out. Now, let's get into Mercury and see why this Mercury retrograde is different. One of the first things I want us to realize is that this Mercury is not going to make too many aspects. And this is unusual for Mercury. Usually Mercury makes a few different aspects, it has a few conjunctions, but this is kind of quiet. We don't have that many exchanges. The only time that it comes to have connection with other planets is when it has that Kazimi with the sun in its retrograde motion. So there's a kind of a simplicity to this retrograde. It seems like it has a singular purpose. And I would say that purpose is for us to reflect a little bit more in the sign of Cancer. And I say this because Cancer is a sign that's representing our inner world. It governs the subjective dimension of our life. It's talking about the private aspects of our life. It's also saying something about our sense of belonging, how we feel attached to certain people and situation, how we feel rooted. It's the place where our experiences of other people and life circumstances become woven into our emotional reality. Cancer is saying something about our inner landscape. And Mercury is the planet of intellect. It's about thinking, deciphering, discerning, connecting this point to another point, synthesize off of that. So when it comes into this inner realm that's very emotional, Mercury wants to understand what's happening within. So this Mercury wants to discern and decipher, what am I carrying? What has shaped me on that internal realm? This Mercury wants to know what still has influence over us. You know, evocation of memories that suddenly trigger an emotion and a mode and a mood of being. Mercury wants to name things and figure them out. And I feel the purpose of this Mercury, it wants to reflect because it wants to know how to move forward, which also means what it is that we need to leave behind. And because Mercury represents the intellect, which means it wants to categorize, analyze, compare, and name things, Mercury in water signs, like the sign of Cancer, has a bit of problem there. That's because our emotional realm operates very different than this rational intellect that we have, that wants to rationalize everything. We can't rationalize our emotions. Like a lot of times we just know something emotionally. And that sense of knowing is something that we're not able to articulate right away through the intellect and the thinking process. If we do it, it actually muddies that water. We get anxiety. A lot of times we understand our inner shifts way before we can understand them. Like we know something's changed, but we can't articulate it yet. This is the sign of Cancer. So the intellect has gone into a realm that is naturally not intellectual, is not about the intellect, is about feeling the world in terms of a way of understanding the world. And there's another thing too, the sign of Cancer, because it's moon sign and moon has a lot to do with retention and concentration of things. It's going into a realm of aggregates. Things are not segmented and differentiated, and Mercury needs things differentiated. So what Mercury is going to find itself in is in the realm of memories. That's the best it can do to decipher things. So I wouldn't be surprised during this Mercury retrograde, a lot of old memories come to the surface and we're trying to sort through it, figure it out, categorize it, rename it. And I think another thing this Mercury wants to do, it wants to, because Jupiter is moving out of here too, and Jupiter has created that sense of spaciousness. We really want to understand what is this concept of home, being at home. And this is a very hard task for the intellect to do, because that feeling of I am at home, I have a sense of belonging, it's supposed to stay in the realm of feelings. But this Mercury wants to understand what that means now, to feel at home, to feel rooted and grounded. So we have a very rational planet in a sphere of life, in a sign that's not always rational. This is the Mercury within us really wanting to understand why we feel the way we do, why we have experienced the things that we have experienced for the past year and a half. What has happened to our life with that Mars retrograde and then with Jupiter there and then Jupiter going retrograde there? We're really trying to understand something about the shifts in our interiority and to make sense of it. In some ways, we're trying to understand the logic behind our emotions. And all I want to say to that is that we should be mindful about that, because a lot of times we start worrying in life. We start to have a sense of anxiety because we're overanalyzing our feeling. The minute that we name something, we have kind of made it something solid in the world. We've made it real. While emotions can be very transient, one of the things that was keep coming to my mind when making the script was Bruce Lee's voice saying, be like water. This intellect might not want to be like water because it's in its retrograde motion too. It can go back, find something that glitches it out, and then linger there. So I just want us to be mindful of this as we move through the sign of Cancer with this Mercury. And the second point I want to emphasize on is the transits of Mars and Jupiter here. Because Mars did its retrograde in 2025 and then Jupiter did its retrograde in 2026. And the reason why I want to bring this up, because I want to take your attention back to the degrees of these retrogrades and just for you to see the sequences and how everything's related. Because Mars completed its retrograde at 17 degrees of Cancer. It started in Leo and it went all the way to 17 degrees of Cancer. And that was on February 2025. Then Jupiter, in its last retrograde cycle, went all the way back to 15 degrees of Cancer. And that was on March 2026. And now Mercury stations at 16 degrees of Cancer. And before moving forward with this, I do want you to check out, if you haven't seen it yet, Jupiter in the nakshatra of Punarvasu and the video about Punarvasu nakshatra, the lunar mansion where these retrogrades were going to, which is about reorganizing and redoing things. Now we have the planet of intellect retrograding, redoing something, not only in Cancer, but what Mars and Jupiter also did in the past year and a half. So this Mercury is taking care of some unfinished business of all the reorganization and rearrangements that these two planets did. And if you think back, we know what Mars did. The way Mars rearranges things is by cutting, severing. It was about acting, reacting, protecting. It was engagement in a forceful manner. That was in 2025. And then Jupiter came in and it was trying to expand our perspective. It was also trying to fix some of the muck that Mars had made in its debilitation and its retrograde. But now Mercury is going back to examine the nook and cranny of this expanded space. Well, what is it about? What does it contain? What can go there? It's trying to identify these patterns of changes within us. It's trying to connect the dots about all these rearrangements. Like, who the hell have we become? Everything that we've gone through in the past year and a half. How do we think now? How do we feel? How do we stand in ourselves? And this Mercury is showing us experiences that might seem separated are actually interacting with each other in a different way now. This is a Mercury moving into a house, and it's like, there used to be a wall there. How come there's no wall here now? Why have all the rooms been rearranged? So Mercury is checking out this inner structure that has been changed. And to put it simply, we are trying to figure out what has happened to us and who we've become in this past year and a half. And from you guys' comment, when I read it too, and in my own life experience too, so much has happened. So many of us have had to go through so many trials and tribulations that we don't have the same feeling about a lot of things. We need to understand what has changed, how things have changed. And this is the purpose of this Mercury. And at the earlier point of the video, I was saying gods have a sense of humor because we've done so much self-reflection. We've been inside of ourselves so much, as I was describing in the previous video, that it's just a little too much to go back within and to try to figure out a little bit more. But this is where we're at. Now, I want to bring you guys to another point worth talking about with this retrograde, which is Mercury's Kazimi in the sign of Cancer on July 12th. And this will occur at 20 degrees of Cancer, again, in that same nakshatra of Punarvasu. And traditionally, when a planet like Mercury comes into exact degree as the sun, it's in the heart of the sun. This is a moment of absolute illumination. The soul, consciousness, takes over the intellect. It's almost like the soul is transmitting something to our human intellect. And what is the sun transmitting? The content of Cancer here. It's about having internal clarity suddenly. And we really need this at this point. So this whole back and forth, I'm going to name things, I'm going to look at things, might continue. But once Mercury has contact with the sun, that's when we have that aha moment. It's insights, realization, recognition, just a piece of information that suddenly gives us a perspective shift. And we really need this right now because we're kind of stuck in the old paradigm of life. And at the same time, in this mode of, oh my God, all these things have happened to me, but we need to come out of it on the other side with a perspective shift of, this is what it's made of me. This is my capacity now. This is what I'm capable of doing. And we really need that with Jupiter in the sign of Leo, which I discussed in the previous video, because we're trying to take our internal content or inner kingdom out into the world and have an authentic self-expression. So this Kazimi is when something that feels like it was beneath the surface suddenly becomes illuminated in the mind's eye. We become conscious of something that we couldn't name previously. And we need to name it to be able to move forward because Mercury is here. So this is kind of like the Kazimi of Mercury and the sun, which is one of the first aspects as a conjunction that Mercury makes during its transit. And then when we get to the end of Mercury's retrograde, when Mercury is actually in its direct motion and is trying to get the hell out of Cancer, Mercury will make its first direct connection with Venus in the sign of Virgo. And this is a sextile. And just before getting into that, one thing to remember about the sign of Virgo, this is an earth sign, is a practical sign, is a very intellect-oriented sign. It's organized, methodical. It's a sign of discernment. This is Mercury's exaltation, the intellect in a sign that can discern and problem solve. And this is one of the reasons why Venus is debilitated here, because Venus can lack a sense of discrimination in some ways. It just knows that something's attracted to something else and it wants to merge it. In the sign of Virgo, we can't do that. We got to name things, categorize things, and then figure out which categories go together. This becomes burdensome for Venus, the planet of love and union, in a sign that likes to separate, segment to understand the relationality of things. So when Venus is in the sign of Virgo, it becomes obsessed with details. This is one of the reasons why Venus and Virgo can make a great fashion designer, because they're evaluating the fabric relative to the button and then the distance between each button. So it can make it aesthetically very discerning. But this Venus, for example, doesn't know how to enjoy beauty, how to take pleasure from it. It becomes practical. It becomes about work. It becomes consumed with the practical matters of life. Beauty to Venus in Virgo might be a house is beautiful when the garbage has been taken out. So I'm going to take out the garbage. But in the context of this retrograde, it's saying that we're figuring out some very deep emotional stuff, but we have to find some practical application for it in the real world. Our inner insights from that Kazimi are not meant to stay in the realm of abstraction. The water signs can't have this. Mysterious, abstract. This is Mercury conveying a message to Venus in its own sign, saying, look, this is what I discovered. This was illuminated to me. Figure out how to implement it into my daily life. So it becomes about a question of what do you intend to do with what you now understand internally. And some of the ways that this can come out is just a practical way and a practical application of how do I care for myself? And how do I practically improve the lives of other people that I love? How can I practically improve the quality of my life? So in a lot of ways, we're problem solving with this aspect. We're trying to change the way that we connect to our everyday life relative to this internal happening and what has happened to us within ourselves. In some ways, if you think about it, this is us moving out of the realm of thinking and feeling to practical application of thoughts and feelings in our life. And is it going to feel good? Probably not, because Venus is debilitated. So there's a sense of griminess about it, but we have to try. We need to figure it out. But that's coming out later, when Mercury is direct. And with all of that said, there's one more observation I want to bring to the forefront. And I think it's incredibly important. And that is, this is the second Mercury retrograde of 2026. The first one occurred in the sign of Pisces at 22 degrees, and that was on February 25th. Now, this one is occurring in another water sign, in the sign of Cancer. And the last one, the third one, will occur in the other water sign of Scorpio. And that one will be on October 24th at 20 degrees of Scorpio. So again, 3 Mercury retrograde, all 3 in water signs. Now we're through 2 of the 3. And this is important because the planet of intellect and rationality, which does not like to be in the realm of emotions and feelings, it's retrograding 3 times in an uncomfortable place. It's keep retrograding in the realm of emotions and feelings. Like Mercury loves the external world. I would say even that our world, our reality is all Mercury. Information of how, when you watch The Matrix, those numbers are coming down. And based on those numbers is creating reality, that is Mercury. But the realm of the interiority is not Mercury's realm. And in the sign of Pisces, Mercury was in the realm of the boundless, where Mercury is actually debilitated because Mercury can't discern and name anything. So Mercury was drowning there. In February, us trying to figure out a lot of our intuition. How do we know what we know? Why are we navigating the world the way that we are? And I just explained Cancer, and when Mercury goes into the sign of Scorpio, is dealing with deep internal feelings of passion, deep opinions and desires, that inner furnace that propel us to have deep emotions. This is a year where the intellect is constantly drowning in our inner world, in the places that are hidden. And it's funny to have the intellect at the center of our emotional story. This is telling us we're really trying to figure out, why do we feel the way we do? What is the bridge between the emotions and our thinking process? How do I keep myself calm and centered? Again, going back to a concept that I've been talking about from beginning of the year, we've moved into the era of air and fire. Air and fire can scatter. So we need to understand how our thinking, our emotions, our internal world, our external world, how they're all interconnected, so that we can keep our sense of stability. And I think Mercury going through these water retrogrades is for us to understand our inner world, to know how we operate within, so that we are not pulled to a million different directions externally in the world. But we'll talk more about Scorpio retrograde and Mercury in the fall. And we're getting to the end of this video. And before closing this video, please do remember to like, share, and comment. Let us know what realization, memories, or keep resurfacing to your awareness. They want your attention to think about them. These are the things we need to be aware of. We need to understand ourselves in terms of why these certain emotions, thoughts, memories, feelings, why are they coming up? Why are they trying to convey to us? And Mercury's here. Mercury can do the conveying, but we got to pay attention. And think about this relative to Jupiter, because Jupiter's been here for a year. What kind of changes did Jupiter make that you feel like you don't still understand? And now you need this Mercury to go through it all, to put it into context, to give it a name, to put it in some sort of a category. These are the things I think worth grappling with, rather than hanging on to one thought or one emotion and then ruminating on that. Because Mercury in the sign of Cancer can bring a form of anxiety. It's like emotional anxiety. So please do let me know, let us know. And if you want to understand the upcoming transits in your chart, or just to understand the blueprint of your life, what it's saying about you, why you've gone through what you have gone through. What were the lessons? Where are you supposed to go? For that reading, you can go to my website at parisayazdi.com for more information, or you can go to the description box below. My email's there, and you can contact me directly. And now to close. And I want to close with bringing this into your attention. There's a beautiful concept in Vedic astrology which divides the houses and the signs into these 4 goals of life. And one goal of life is related to Moksha, which is related to the water signs and the water houses. And the ultimate aim or goal of life when it's Moksha is about liberation. And I don't mean liberate yourself from life because you never want to come back and you never want to live and you hate life. You just want to be free of it. Moksha is talking about enlightenment. And when it comes into the sign of Cancer, is about being enlightened about our inner self, our inner world, our inner landscape, about our unconscious patterns that keep us in the same loop of pain, the very thing that might not want to make us live anymore and grapple with life. So the ultimate aim of Cancer is inner enlightenment of that emotional realm, where when we are enlightened, we are liberated from all of its pain. And maybe this is why Mercury is the final planet that's retracing its steps back in the sign, because we already had Mars and Jupiter. Maybe this is the Mercury that's going to go back and allow us to become enlightened in terms of how we can free ourselves from the entrapment of past memories, past ways that we were devoted to the wrong people, the ways that we interpreted things the wrong way, which would evoke devastating feelings within us. Maybe this is the Mercury that's going to show us you don't need those attachments anymore. You can outgrow these fears. And Mercury is not just a planet of talking. Mercury is a planet of communication. Communication is a two-way channel. So you speak and you listen. And Mercury in water signs can become very quiet. It can become a good listener. So this is also an opportunity for us to listen to ourselves. Listen to those that we love when they're expressing their emotions also, because they're sharing something of their internal self with us. It's important for us right now to listen to our own stories and other people's stories. Usually this is the way that we get more empathy for ourselves and for other people. And this is the way to break through a lot of emotional patterns of the past. Patterns that were dictating our choices, our sense of self-worth. This listening Mercury can help us hear ourselves right now. I was saying in another video, in the last video, that Jupiter has created a sense of spaciousness within us, and that's a good thing, but sometimes it just creates echoes. It creates an echo chamber within us until we understand how to make sound move through this chamber. Mercury can also do that for us in the way that we have our self-talk, for example, the way we talk to ourselves. Maybe this Mercury is moving back so that we can move forward, especially move forward with this Jupiter into the sign of Leo, which is about being at the center of ourselves, about how to govern our own lives, how to lead our own lives. But we got to know where we're at to know where we're going. Maybe this is what the function of this Mercury is. And maybe this Mercury retrograde, the way Mercury retrogrades are famous for reflecting and redoing, maybe it's not about remembrance in the sign of Cancer, but this time is about release. In 2026, we're coming into some sort of a closure to those spaces that are very internal, private, hidden, subconscious. And the planet of intellect has been designated the task to understand, because that's what the intellect does. And I think in the era of air and fire, we really need to have a grip of our inner world so that we can move externally out in the world. And maybe we need to be liberated from our past in a lot of ways to be able to move forward. And this brings us to the end of our video. And before leaving, I'd like to leave us with a wish. And I say, may this Mercury retrograde give us clarity to recognize what has completed its purpose, and the wisdom to release it with gratitude, and the freedom to carry forward only what truly belongs to the person that we have become and where it is that we're going. And that's it for today. Sending you much love. Till next time.